Good evening, everyone. And I'm told the bell is ringing, so we must start the meeting tonight. And so I welcome everybody to the executive, and I'm very glad to be back at an executive meeting and to see you all. Obviously, we have some Oh, I haven't got to repeat it, have I? No, thank goodness. Okay, have we any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair. Apologies for absence from Councillor Malcolm and Khatija Malik, and I believe Councillor Godding as well.
Okay, thank you. Have we any? Can I sign the published record of the meeting?
Yeah.
7th of March. Thank you very much. Remind members of section 106. I don't know whether there's any on the agenda tonight. No. And disclosures of interest. And I would like to declare a disclosure of interest in the private section, item 15. And I don't know if anybody else has any disclosures of interest. Yes?
Non-pecuniary in item 9 and item
9 to 9, okay.
An item with around the airport.
So both of them, are you going to declare an interest in, Tamina?
Well, I'm a director at the airport.
Oh, yes, then you need to, yeah. Okay, thank you. Have you got that then, Matt?
Chair.
Okay. We have no business not covered by the current poor plan and no business of special urgency. We've no references from committees or other bodies and no recommendations from scrutiny reviews, and I have no petitions on the agenda tonight. I'm afraid it's a bit of the Hazel show tonight on the reports because I'm standing in for others, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm sorry about that. The first item is the item 8, and it's the draft calendar of meeting dates for the executive. I'm asking members to approve them, but if there are any of the dates that are difficult, please can you let the officers know so that we're in plenty of time for us to consider alternatives. Okay, thank you very much. Are they agreed? Thank you. And the next item is the Luton Rising Group consultation and the adoption of the business plan. Our airport company and our airport are in recovery, which is great news. Do you need to leave, Tamina? No, I mean, it's in the private papers. I've got a pecuniary interest.
Private papers.
As I was saying, our airport company and our airport are in recovery. Passenger numbers on Thursday were at 70% of pre-pandemic levels, with figures for the whole of March at 62%, and the airlines are reporting strong bookings for the coming summer. So that's very good news for people's jobs and, of course, for the council and the airport company as well. Now is the time to look to the future, and that is exactly what this business plan does, laying out the plans and focus of Luton Rising over the next few months and years. It is a hugely important document which will continue to evolve and change as a living document to react to market and economic conditions and as projects that Luton Rising is leading on reach their milestones. It has been welcomed by Overview and Scrutiny Board, and I thank them for their time, as also the Finance Review Group. And again, thank you for the time they took to look at this, and the new Luton Shareholders Group. And I believe it is a really positive step forward. So I would ask the executive to approve the recommendation to approve the Luton Rising annual business plan and to instruct the chief exec to inform the board of directors of London Luton Airport Limited that the shareholder consents to the adoption. Obviously, there are papers in the private section of this agenda that Councillor Khan will move, which have more detail and more recommendations. But for now, I'm asking you to accept this one. Tom?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate Luton Rising. You know, through various meetings at the Climate Change Working Group, we've had promises about becoming the greenest airport in the UK, what action they'll take on climate change and how they'll work alongside us. On page, I believe it's 28 to 30 in the report, is all the promises he made to the climate change working group, they're actually put into the business plan now. So from a climate change point of view, all we can say is well done to the airport, and we welcome your ambition to be the greenest airport in Great Britain.
Thank you, Tom. That's very positive. Anybody else want to make any comments? Rob?
Yeah, thank you. After a strange weekend of documents, I spoke to Sue Frost this morning, the environmental impact asset assessment form, the document, and it's very positive.
Right.
They say it's robust. There's obviously detail. Things have got to be sorted out, but it doesn't appear to be an issue or problem to our officers to get that sorted out. That's the Luton Local Planning Authority working independently as a planning authority with the other four local authorities aboard of us. So that was quite positive meeting as well this morning.
Okay,
thank you.
That's good news after the discussion we had last week. Yeah, good news. So is there any other comments? Aslan?
Yeah, just being comment again, this is the council working in partnership, being bold, not just growing our economy, but also making sure we grow the right way and we're most environmentally friendly and the greenest airport in the country. And that was our commitment to our constituents, and it's good to see that the business plan actually reflects that.
Okay. Unless there's no other questions, I'll move the recommendation again. Is that agreed by the executive?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We now move on to the integrated care system, which is down to me, I'm afraid. And I would just like to say that this report deals with the development of the integrated care board and the integrated care partnership, which are two statutory bodies that come out of the integrated care system. The CCG will be disestablished to make way for the integrated care partnership within the new legislative framework, and it is proposed that these two bodies will come into effect, and the integrated care partnership will include the council, wider health care partners, etc. So the concept of using these boards as opportunities for partners to help shape and influence and deliver key priorities to improve the outcomes of people across BLMK, but more importantly for us, to have a voice for the people of Luton. Through our Health and Wellbeing Board, we already oversee our ambitious population wellbeing strategy, which will help deliver our 2040 vision. Our new place board is in operation with key members from across Luton getting to grips with developing meaningful outcomes for our people. And they report back to the Health and Wellbeing Board. This ensures consistency and removes any duplication. The report before you today asks for your agreement to nominations for these roles on the two new boards. And I would recommend that on the Integrated Care Board, we are proposing the Chief Exec and the Director of Public Health sit on that. There are already two nominations from the Council on the Integrated Care Partnership, which are the Chair of Health and Wellbeing Board and the Director of Public Health. And they're automatic members of the Integrated Care Partnership. And we're asking for two more people, exec members actually, to be nominated to that. And I would recommend Councillor Malik and Councillor Hussain to take up those two positions. To help with further information, there's lots attached in the report. There are 3 papers on which outlines the roles and responsibilities of the draft terms of reference, of which Luton will eventually sign to, and lots more information for you to read up on. But I'll attempt to answer any questions if members have any. But as you will see, this is very much about nominations to positions more than the detail. Rob?
Yeah, it's more of a comment really. I'm just pleased to see that we have 2 representations from members because going back, I don't think that was something they were putting forward at the time. So I'm really pleased to see that, and I'd like to see Councillor Malik and Javid on the board. Thank you.
It's also very important to note that the BLMK have taken on a lot of our 2040 vision as part of their agenda to work with us on health inequalities. So it's very important that we're there pushing that agenda on those committees. Hassan?
Yeah, the proposal makes sense. Councillor Sain being the adult and social care portfolio holder, and also Khatija being public health, and you've got yourself and Robin on there, so that really strengthens our self-membership on the board. So yeah, and I agree with the proposal.
Thank you, Hassan. Are there any other questions? Are we happy to agree those nominations? Thank you very much. And I now move on to item 11, which is the Luton tree policy and tree management strategy. And I note the parks officers are in the meeting room tonight if anybody's got any real technical questions. The policy and strategy before you tonight is supported by an action plan that sets out the framework for the sustainable management of trees across the borough of Luton. It has been prepared with reference to local, regional and national policies and guidance. In relation to our tree stock across the town, we need to ensure we have suitable inspection systems in place, including monitoring and audit provisions. A Luton tree policy and tree management strategy is fundamental to ensuring that the council has discharged its duty of care to its trees by having a proactive response to this tree management. The document is also key in supporting funding applications we make to various organisations to support our aims and to increase the quality and quantity of trees in the town. This draft has already been used successfully to bid for 175,000 treescapes funding for the years 22 to 23, and to be invited to make an application to the Emergency Tree Fund, which is very good. Overview and Scrutiny Board considered this policy and made a number of recommendations. We welcome and thank Overview and Scrutiny Board for the time they took to have a look at this, and the fact that it gave the officers who prepared this detailed and informative report their thanks for the work that have gone into it. We accept their recommendations that further consideration be given to the policy of planting trees in residential streets. This is a piece of work which is already underway, as our climate change action plan has already identified a need for us to fully investigate locations that would enable us to safely plant more trees and increase tree cover in the town. We note the recommendations regarding securing funding to implement the action plan. The funding for this work, and more widely the budget for the Park Service, is set and reviewed annually. We will continue to ensure that resources are allocated as appropriate and will support the service in its efforts to continue to successfully bid for external funding to benefit this area of our work. We also note, but cannot support, the recommendation 3, that we introduce a policy of replacing every tree lost on council land with 2 new trees. We cannot support this recommendation, as the method of valuing trees which need to be removed is contained within the report and provides a more realistic method of giving a value to trees than simply applying a 2-for-1 replacement value. The method proposed is known as CAVAT, which stands for Capital Asset Value of Amenity Trees. It is a very well established way to demonstrate the amenity value of the tree rather than just its replacement cost value. Using this method, the value of a tree can and has been determined to run into tens of thousands of pounds, as this method looks at not only the current value of the tree as an asset, but also its value of its likely lifespan. This method has already been used to value trees that developers wish to remove. In one instance, the value of 5 trees that a developer wished to remove was so great that it resulted in them amending their plans to retain some of the trees which would otherwise have been lost. It is very important to note that if a tree is removed, the CAVAT value payment is retained by the Parks Service, and that money is ring-fenced to that service budget to continue their work in maximising tree canopy across the town. I hope the executive can appreciate that this method of valuation ensures that any loss of a tree is appropriately compensated for and enables the Park Service to address that loss to the benefit of the town. So I therefore move all the recommendations that are in the report and ask executive to support this. Are there any questions? Is it agreed? Thank you very much. Right. I think I can shut up now and move over to item 12, which is Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The item is the moving traffic contraventions. The report seeks approval to adopt the powers becoming available under Part 6 of the Traffic Management Act 2004, which, if adopted, will help towards improving road safety and encourage higher levels of compliance with traffic regulations. The new powers would allow the Council to carry out monitoring and enforcement of the moving traffic contraventions, such as pedestrian zones, banned turns, yellow box junctions, and no entry signs. The current position is that the enforcement is carried out by Bedfordshire Police, who have been consulted as part of this process. Before we can take on the powers, the Council is required to undertake some work to be in a position to make an application for the powers. This includes identifying trial locations that evidence suggests this type of enforcement will be necessary, undertaking a review of the traffic regulation orders and signs and lines to ensure that they are in good order, carrying out a public engagement exercise for a minimum of 6 weeks, ensuring that all equipment used for enforcement is certified by the relevant approval body, consulting with the Chief Constable of Bedfordshire Police. Officers are working on these requirements, and that should allow for an application to be submitted in due course. An application will be in the form of a letter from the Chief Executive, and it's hoped Luton could be in the first group of those given the new powers subject to completion of this work. If we receive approval, we could commence monitoring and enforcement in June or July 22. 2 initial trial sites have been selected as outlined in the report. These are Manchester Street and George Street pedestrian zones. Most of the infrastructure is already in place, and enforcement will be by CCTV as well as foot patrol officers. A public engagement exercise has been in place for the past 6 weeks between the 21st of February and the 4th of April 2022. This has been on the Council's consultations portal and social media platforms, which have encouraged people to respond. Of the responses received, over half said they thought it was a good idea to take on the new powers. There is no requirement on the Council to undertake enforcement at all sites in Luton. However, it is a requirement that all first-time offenders during the first 6 months at the selected sites will only be issued with a warning notice. Repeat offenders will be issued with a penalty charge notice, for which the level will be set at £70, reduced by 50% for prompt payment in line with regulations. There is also a requirement to issue warning notices and carry out public engagement for all new sites that are introduced going forward, although we do not need any further approval from the DFT. In addition to the above, when the new regulations come into operation from the 31st of May 2022, the Council will continue to enforce existing bus lanes under the new powers, with the penalty charge level being set at £70, reduced by 50% for a prompt payment in line with the regulations. The current penalty charge level is £60. After this trial period, we would bring this back to the Executive, if so required, the results of that trial period. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Tom?
Saying no right turn into the car park, you'd see 10 cars an hour blocking all the road to go into that car park. And one of the reasons there's no parking is so many police cars now park on the footpath in front of the multi-storey car park that no one else can get past half the time. I think they've got a tea room in the hospital now, so they all go and park there. But coming up the road, everyone just completely ignores that no right turn sign into the hospital. We can put a yellow box there. I understand that the reason the police don't take any action when they're being challenged so many times over it is they're saying the signage is incorrect. So if we got challenged with losing court, I can't see that. I know it's right on where you turn right, but no right turn sign. But we do need to do some more there, because we've all all the work what's going on at the hospital is causing absolute chaos. These people just sitting in the road waiting to turn right into the multi-storey car park. And no one can turn right because all the police cars were parked there. So traffic coming down Lucy Road is solid all the way back to the lights and round the lights sometimes. So, you know, they might sit there 5 minutes waiting to turn in and just stopping everything outside the hospital. So the quicker we can get something done there, the better off we'd be.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I think it sounds like there might be some preparation work to be done there as well by the sounds of it, but certainly look into it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll take that back and have a look. Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Oh, that's fine.
Again, I welcome the report, the amount of people that I've spoken to, and we see how the behaviors of drivers has changed over the years. And it's, you know, sometimes frightening to see when people are turning into no entries, or even when they shouldn't be, or even just parallel park and stay there, and while, you know, people have to just wait behind and becoming so arrogant. And I hope that this report will give more extra powers for our officers to go after those people who, you know, don't respect the laws and our roads. So, you know, hope that we start using some of the technology that we have available to enforce enforcement. Thank you.
I just want to clarify that you said that the contraventions are these 4 bullet points here. The only ones we can work with is pedestrian zones, band turns, yellow box junctions, and no entry signs. That's the only thing the legislation will allow us to do. So particularly, you mentioned double parking there, so I just wanted to clarify. Really, that's what we've got.
I know. I mean, that could be the next thing. What's this? Yeah. So.
Okay, David.
Yeah, thanks very much. I won't detain you long on this. The sooner this can be implemented, the better. And my experience is that Manchester Street in the evenings is a very, very busy car park, and it's about time something was done about it.
Agreed.
Thank you, David.
Okay, I see nobody else has any questions, so it's before members. Are we agreed? Thank you very much. And we now move on to item 13, which is the public health grant allocation. As members know, public health services are funded through a ring-fenced grant provided to local authorities on an annual basis. The value of the grant is calculated using the standardised mortality rate for under 75s, adjusted for age, gender and health outcomes. Luton benefits with a higher per capita allocation than surrounding areas. The paper shows the proposed allocations for 22 to 23. A large proportion of the spend is on contracts for statutory services, such as sexual health, 0 to 19 services, that's health visiting and school nurses, drug and alcohol services, and NHS checks, and contracts for non-statutory services, such as very important stop smoking and weight management. There will potentially be 1.5 million public health reserve available when 2022-23 financial year starts. The public health team is currently undergoing a cost-neutral restructure, life and shift. It is proposed that as part of this, some fixed-term posts are employed to strengthen the public health team delivery capabilities using public health reserve of approximately 384,000. It is proposed that some of the available public health reserved in 22-23 is utilised across the council to fund prevention pilots. These are short-term pilot initiatives to test approaches to health and well-being improvement and ill health prevention across the council, up to a total of 400,000. Currently, 22-23 spend includes 140,000 towards inequalities programmes and pharmaceutical needs assessment, strategic needs assessments. It is proposed to deliver these in-house by creating permanent additional posts using the same level of funding. Number of posts and grades still need to be evaluated, and that information will obviously come back later. I therefore move the recommendations to approve the spending allocation for the annual public grant for Luton with those extra points I made. Are there any questions? Javid.
Thank you, Chair. The only question I have is private hire ring fence reserve will be reduced from 1.5 million to roughly 700k due to one-off investments. Is that enough? Are we sure? Because that's a 50%
Could you
reduction.
say that again? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
So private hire on page 192 on finances, public health ring fence reserve will be reduced from 1.5 million to roughly 700k due to one-off investments. Now, will that still be enough? That's a 50% reduction.
I don't know the answer to that, and don't think Sally's here, is she?
Yeah.
No. Can we come back to you on that, Javid? Yep. I promise I'll get you an answer. Okay. Are there any other questions? Are we happy to approve the report?
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I take the Regulation 4 of the Local Authority Act as read and pass over to Councillor Khan as I leave the room?
Hazel, might we know the nature of the interest, please?
I have a friend